I'm not gonna lie, friends, I am so over the watercolor prompts. So today I'm pulling out a supply that I've had for a while that needs some serious play and attention. And you wanna stick around until the very end because there is a moment of reveal that's gonna blow your mind. Because it blew my mind. I'm gonna show you a little, just stick around. I've had this third set of the Gansi Tambi super granulators for quite a while, and it's about time that we give it a go. Now, I had my previous two sets in a smaller palette, and obviously that's not going to work anymore. I already took them out and found a really good replacement, this cute little Mickey Mouse paint box. And the thing I really love about this one is that we have a ton of space in here because you know that they're going to bring out more of these, right? I'm going to organize these according to my heart, not according to the sets they came out in. So greens with greens, warm colors with warm colors, that kind of thing. So like Aurora Red, Aurora Orange will be together. You know, these do best when you kind of swoosh them and swirl them in an empty little pot. Is that we have all the room here to do the swishing and the swirling. So this one's lunar. Here we go. Lunar. I don't know why I'm saying it that way. Okay, these are the greens. So I have talked about, used, reviewed, whatever you want to call it, these paints before. I will link those below so you can see what I've done with them. I have some adhesive already in here from a previous palette, so we're just going to go ahead and use that. There's so much information online about what granulating paints are, but if you're new and you've never heard this term before, I want you to stick around in this video. So basically, granulating pigments are pigment particles that are larger. They haven't been ground down as much, and when you add water to them, they kind of release kind of a textured look. But see how the color is already, you can see that. I mean, look at that. The pigments are already separating. Now, I use the word separating, and I did that mindfully because there is a difference between separating pigments and granulating. And I will say that these are definitely more on the separating side of things, meaning you don't get as much textural stuff going on as you do actual separation of pigments. Now, what they recommend with these, meaning the actual brand, Gansi Tambi, they recommend getting it into a palette, swirling it around for best results. I picked up this really cool, like aged, toned watercolor paper. I'm going to link it below. I have never used it before, so you're coming along for this journey with me. We're just going to play around with it together. Now, make sure that all of your pans have been sprayed and have been sitting for about a minute is what I'd recommend. In fact, I'm going to go ahead with my little handy dandy travel spray water container and just give them an extra zhuzh. Like if you're not seeing those colors separating right in the pan, that is specific to this brand, then you know these need a little more time to kind of warm themselves up. We're just doing fun florals today, friends. I just want to sink into my comfort subject. And if you don't know what a comfort subject matter is, I have a video linked below. Go check it out. It is such a wonderful habit to kind of lean into in your watercolor practice. So let's get into this. All right, remember, we got to go swirl this in the palette a little bit, picking up some of this pink. I'm not going to be calling these out by name, friends, because that's just not my style. All right, here we go. We're swirling. Now, this could be a flop. Adding some water off camera onto my brush so it's almost dripping, and let's press, drag, and lift. A little sweep of a petal, grabbing some more paint from the palette, and we're going to press, drag, lift. And I'm going to keep going, adding water to my brush off camera and then tapping into this bright red here. And I'm going to bump my next press, drag, and lift right next to the first. And I'm just going to grab some more pink, swirl it in, swirl it in. You need way more water than you do actual paint when it comes to color separators or granulators. And that is definitely true for both. I started with a little bit of an up sweepy stroke here. The tip of my dagger brush facing kind of towards me and my left hand swept up, and then I'm going to come right back down and sweep down. I almost want this to be like a side view bloom. Just going to tap in some extra something, maybe some more of the pink. I think I have too much paint on my brush because remember what I said, we need more water, way more water than we need paint when it comes to these. I'm getting the feeling with this particular paper, now I'm just editing the shapes of my petals. I'm getting the feeling with this particular paper that it may not be the best for color separators. Notice what I'm doing here. I grabbed some water off camera and I am just dropping that water in and starting to push it around. I'm essentially flooding. Flooding is a technique I love in watercolor. I'm flooding an already established area of paint with water. If you want to know more about the basics of watercolor when it comes to techniques, I have a video linked below. It's a watercolor for beginners mastermind. Now I'm grabbing some green and I'm going to, with my pointed tip of my brush facing down, I'm going to sweep. I'm going to start over here on this left petal and I'm going to sweep down to the left again. And I'm going to repeat that next to it, creating a little bit. See how this part of the stem is kind of sprayed out? I'm going to continue that stroke down after I establish that kind of sprayed shape that is supporting now the base of these petals. Now we can definitely see the color separation, that's for sure, but it's not like, oh my gosh, in your face, is it? Now, the other thing with color separating pigments and granulating pigments is that, friends, you've got to be patient. Oh my heavens to Betsy, you got to be patient. So I'm rinsing, I'm grabbing some of whatever this is, I'm popping it into my mix here of my green from before. Lots of water, lots of water. And we're going to do some, starting here, curved edge of the brush down, starting right up here on the right-hand side of that sweepy stem. Press, drag, lift. Remember, if you're getting blunt ends to your press, drag, and lift, it means you are going too fast with that drag. Press, drag, lift. And I have a slight curve going on. Slight curve going on, going back and swirling into my palette, grabbing more paint. And I want to actually tap in some to see if I can get this paint to do its thing. Same thing on the other side, but I'm just going to do one. That looks really pretty. Right, so I'm going to let this rest. Remember, I mentioned patience being key. I want to swatch out these colors just to see what each of them does by themselves on this paper, because again, I am not terribly convinced that these are going to be great separators, although that one did it right away. Just going to do really quick, and I actually am grabbing the paint right from the pan with a very wet brush, clean wet brush, and I'm just sweeping down twice. You can do a little extra zhuzhing. That has too much paint on there, so I'm grabbing some water, and we're just going to quick go through these. I definitely feel myself wanting to change papers, and that is a-okay. Just going down through. Today is an experiment. Today is play. Isn't that every day? I'm putting more water on these. That is definitely helping it move. And for those who maybe aren't huge fans of granulating or separating paint, you may really like this paper because it seems to be kind of dampening the effect of the separation. A little bit of water back on that swatch. Really pretty, actually. It's muted, but I dig it. That green just sings on this paper. Woo! Every time I go off camera, friends, you can just assume that I'm either blotting, grabbing more paint, or getting some water on my brush. I try to narrate that as closely as possible, but sometimes I forget. It's World Watercolor Month. We're wrapping up, and you may be feeling exhausted from it all, and that is a-okay. This type of thing where you're just swatching can be super, super relaxing for those of us feeling a little spent by the activities of this very busy month in watercolor land. So never shy away from the urge to just swatch. All right, and soon here, I am going to go ahead and switch to a cotton paper that is more traditionally textured, and we're going to see how that works with these paints. I'm going to go ahead and paint another flower, and I'm going to do a traditional paint along. Now stick around, friends, because I'm going to show you this sheet and the floral sheet at the end. They're still extremely wet, so I actually want you to see them when they are dry, because remember, patience goes hand in hand with these types of paints. So let me know in comments if you are actually really loving this look, because the more I look at it, the more it dries, the more I'm loving it. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, or if you're really looking forward to that white paper. All right, friends, I'm going to be holding this little pot of water in my left hand, my non-dominant hand, and then, of course, my brush in my right. This is another reason I love this little boo-boo when I'm traveling, because it's just so convenient. You could also go as far as to hold it with your paper towel, which is something I've been known to do. This is especially helpful with granulating or separating paints because you need that constant access. So just a little, anything 100% cotton and white is going to do you proud in this particular little experiment that we are headed into now. All right, I'm going to go over here and just grab some of whatever was already on the page. Ooh, I'm so excited. All right, let's do this. I don't even know what kind of flower I want to do. I don't even know. I don't even care. I'm just going to do something. Press, drag, and lift. Getting some more water. I'm going to go right next to it. I'm going to press, drag, and lift right next to that water stroke that I put down. I don't know. I'm just grabbing what's on the page here. And then I held this brush curved side facing away from me, and I did a little swoop. All right. And it gave a really curious shape that you might have to practice a bit. I don't want you to feel all frustrated, but just know, full disclosure, that might take some practice. That was a press, drag, and lift, but the press had the most pressure in that whole little stroke. Tapping in some of the paint directly from the palette, I picked up some fresh because I really want to see this move. I remember this paint moving more when I tested out these previous paints over the years as they were released. I remember it moving more. And y'all, this is the Mac Daddy. This is the king of them all in terms of paper. So this paint better start moving and grooving. Come on. It's definitely moving and grooving more than it did with the other paper, but not as much as I expected. Anybody else seeing this with the paint? I know most of our YouTubers out there have already made videos about this, so I'm a little bit behind the eight ball. Just grab this like creamy teal. I don't know what it's called. I'm not lifting up the thing to know what it's called. And I love that. I want to get some of that on there. I'm going to come out and I'm going to do a press, drag, and lift, curve side of the edge, curve side of the brush facing away, and we're going to sweep down into a smiley and back up, lightening the pressure and slowing down even more as you get to the end of that stroke, grabbing some of this brighter teal right on my brush, going right next door and repeating. Notice where I'm holding that brush. Now I'm going to grab some water and tap it in and kind of flood that area. Flooding is kind of like bullying the paint around a bit The other thing that is super helpful with granulating or separating is to get a damp brush that's clean and lightly sweep off or lift some of that paint that's on the page and see what happens. And you can start to see the subtlety of that paint doing a thing, starting to separate a little more. Y'all, I'm telling you what, this paint needs to impress me. Come on, press, drag, lift, and swirl to the bottom. I'm getting a little more abstract here because I'm also, I'll be honest, I'm getting a little impatient with this paint. Did they change their formulation? Now, I will tell you what, I got to show you what this paint is doing in the palette. It is moving and grooving in the palette. So somebody send me a life vest here. Anybody have any kind of, any DL, any intel, any watercolory, you know what, about what is going on with this latest release of Gansi Tambi? Because another thing you can do is just go in and spray her down a bit and see what happens. If you don't want the bleeding to happen like crazy, spray from higher up. Spray, spray, spray. All right, it's starting to do a thing. It's starting to act like I recall, so maybe I was the problem. Not enough moisture. Now, I will say this, friends. I am in an extremely arid climate. I am in southern Utah during the filming of this. That could absolutely be affecting what's going on here, but you can see it now. That orange is separating into a brighter orange, into an aqua, and that is what I recall of this really cool line of paint. And let's go down here. We're going to press, drag, and lift to just a little shoddy, Go on the other side, the flat side of the brush facing down on the paper, and just kind of come around and give it a little hug, press, drag, and lift, and then a little sweep with just the tip, and you've got yourself a nice bud. Getting more water on my brush, tapping in a little pink, tap, 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 flood, 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 just tap it into that very wet paint. If yours isn't moving, if that pink that you added isn't moving, you don't have, your paper's not wet enough. So you can just add some more water and let it go, let it flow, let it do. All right, what's this color? Ooh, that's pretty. It's like indigo. And I'm getting splashes everywhere. That's okay. It's actually adding so much charm. I'm going to connect this, which is kind of like a stem. It's like a chonky stem. I'm going to connect. Boom. Just a quick connect. Oh, that's like a nice purple. And then we're going to go press and lift, press and lift, press and lift. I'm going to push, push, push this, meaning I'm going to flood these little petals with some more water at their base because I want them to do the thing. The other thing that is really helpful with separating or granulating paint is to paint larger because you'll have more surface area on the page for the paint to just do its separating, granulating, moving and grooving thing. So paint larger because you can see very easily in these areas where I did just that, I'm seeing more of the awesome sauceness of what these paints can do. Now I'm just getting bold and a little bit impatient. I'm just going in. That is way too much paint, but I want to push it. Push it good. And I want to see what it'll do when I really push the envelope, go against the grain in terms of the rules of granulating, because typically not a lot of paint, lots of water. And I did just the opposite here, and I'm zhuzhing and I'm pushing and pushing, and look, it's doing a thing. Now I'm going to clean-ish damp brush. Oh yeah, look at that. But notice it's when I removed some of the pigment that it started to do the thing more. Let's get this spray going. I'm going to spray all of this bottom third a lot. Granulating, separating paints require an adventurous spirit. I don't think you're going to get as much out of these if you don't allow yourself to be a little adventurous. Now I'm just grabbing some colors and I'm not even tapping. I'm just shaking my brush that is full of water and full of pigment. All right, I let this dry for about 20 minutes because it's not until you really let everything dry and settle that you're going to see the full extent of what you've got. Now you can get in there and start layering and adding details if you want. And this is not what I was expecting this to be my big reveal. I was like seriously disappointed. I didn't let on as much as I was feeling in the beginning when I was painting on this paper, but Friends, it's all dry now. Look at this. Look. Don't forget, all of the supplies are going to be linked below. You need to dry this paper. I mean, it just did some things. Okay, let me know, do you like this paper or do you prefer it on the white? I gotta know. Head into comments, and until next time, you know what I'm gonna say. Happy painting!